Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. I am Amirul Shah from National University of Malaysia, and it is my honor to present all of you about my research. As for the title is Assessing the Impact of Stringency Index and COVID-19 case on visible price in Malaysia. For the introduction, in the wake of pandemic, Malaysian government continued to take preventive measures by implementing movement control order starting from 18 March 2020. During the MCO period, Malaysia were required to stay at home and were not allowed to travel out of their respective region. The economic impact of COVID-19 hurt the world economy and can be considered as one of the world's biggest economic crash by Shah 2021. Hence, this study is conducted to assess the economic impact of vegetable price in response to MCO and other preventive control measures directed by government during the pandemic that may affect agriculture sector, specifically vegetable price. According to Bosnia, 2020, COVID-19 and lockdown could also affect the transport of grain, and this could also affect the price that farmers receive. Although the government acted quick by allowing trade in agricultural commodities, these were the first set of exemptions to lockdown measures. This alone may not have been enough to provide sufficient cash in system for agricultural market function. By Datuk Michael Kang, the President of SME, Small and Medium Enterprise Association, predict that MCO 3.0 would have a significant impact on SME, as 37.7% of SME were likely to go bankrupt if the MCO were extended and prolonged. He also mentioned that this could cause more than 40% of SME to face financial difficulty in managing their expense, as well as putting at least 2 million people unemployed by the end of the lockdown. By Kowonu 2014, remind people that past literature has shown that the outbreak of severe infectious disease is often accompanied by the food crisis. This is visible price fluctuation chart. For the first one, you can see visible price for 2020. The comments of the MCO in Malaysia on 18 March 2020, which is the 30th week of 2020. As you can see, the price for spinach hiked up drastically from 30th to 90th week of 2020. As for the vegetable price 2021, the implementation of more control order for 14 days from 11 January 2021 until 31 January 2021. Re-announced in the third week of 2020. The movement control order is on the third phase on 2021. You can see the price before the announcement, it went drastically up, and then for the week of the announcement, when all the people must follow the order, the price drastically goes down because no one can go out and limited. As for a household, only one person can go to the market to buy their respective household item. For the research question, the first one is, what is the relationship and level of government response stringency index, lockdown measurement, and the impact of COVID-19 on vegetable price in Malaysia? For the second one, what is the long-term and short-term impact between vegetable price and the government response stringency index measure? The third one, what is the causality link between vegetable price and government response stringency index measure? The last one is how to propose economic policy to address the impact of government response stringency index on vegetable price in Malaysia. For the research objective, to study the relationship and level of government response stringency index and the impact of COVID-19 on vegetable price in Malaysia. The second one, to determine the long-term and short-term effect between vegetable price and the government response stringency index measurement. The third one, to find a causality link between vegetable price and the government response stringency index measurement. The last one is propose an economic policy to address the impact of government response stringency index on vegetable price in Malaysia. As for the methodology introduced by Pension Smith and Shin and Smith 21, auto-regressive distributing lag, or known as ALDL. The first one is unit root test. It is for stationary data test. Stationary at 1-0 or 1-1, or mixture of 1-0 and 1-1. Second step is ARDL co-integration. It is for to test the long-term relationship of the suggested model. And then continue to ARDL short run and long run elasticity. It is to confirm the relationship between variable and selected dependent. Then continue to diagnosis test, ensuring suggested model are reliable and stable. The test is heterogeneity and autocorrelation serial test. Serial autocorrelation test. And the last one is Granger causality, to examine the causality between two variables in time series. By June 2021, he said that there was also a drop of nearly 20% in the market arrival of vegetable and food in few cities between March and April. They attribute the price drop largely to supply chain distribution. The disruption of food supply chain caused by lockdown measure is expected to result in higher food price that could further aggravate the food insecurity concern. Provisional lockdown measure imposed very stringent urgency index. Provisional lockdown measure by U 2020. Provisional lockdown measure imposed very stringent restriction on food transportation from producer to market and from one market to another market. The high value perishable commodities are likely to be greatly affected by the lockdown measurement. However, on the demand side, the outbreak of COVID-19 could cause social panic and in some scenarios, consumers may hoard food, known as panic buying, leading to a vicious cycle to hide the food price. By Zhang 2020, the effect of lockdown on food price show considerably heterogeneity across various types of food commodities. The price hike is generally more pronounced in perishable commodities such as meat, fruit, and vegetable, which are more income elastic in demand and require a large amount of labor to produce. This is my research scope. As for data, use the secondary data, weekly, 70-week, start from January 2020 until May 2021. It is the time series data. And for the dependent variable is vegetable price. For the independent variable, control response urgency index. And in this research, I also have the control variable, which is the COVID-19 case. My data source is from Federal Agriculture Market Authority, known as FAMA, and Oxford COVID-19 Government Response Tracker. The software that will be used for run the data is EViews. The method is auto-regressive variability-like iteration, ARDL, and also Granger causality. Research framework. This is my independent variable, which is Government Response Urgency Index, movement restriction, assembly restriction, international travel restriction. As for the control variable is COVID-19 case. Confirm this case and new case. For the dependent variable, vegetable price, namely spinach, eggplant, and tomatoes. As for the control variable, a control variable is a factor that keeps the same for every test and measurement in order to make sure that the result can be compared fairly. It's a variable that is not of interest to the study aim, but is controlled because it could influence the outcome. Variable may be controlled direct by holding them constant throughout the study. By Itra Bandari, 2021. For the research story, this research used the theory of supply shock and the theory of demand shock to look at the impact of government response urgency index on change in demand and supply following the occurrence of MCO and change in vegetable price in Malaysia. For the supply shock theory, the higher the capital of supplier, the more amount of goods available, because selling large amount at a higher price will generate revenue. Manufacturer provide more goods at higher price. The action of the seller are determined by his willingness and ability to supply the good. Production costs increase due to the short-term increase in supply, thus increasing the price of food. Target increase in production rate is the result of the price change. Next one is demand shock theory. Panic buying behavior lead to increase in direct demand in the business sector at the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic by Baker 2020. When the MCO began, There was a positive demand shock. Demand for essential goods has increased, caused the price of certain vegetables to increase. This is my search result. AIDL test for co-integration for vegetable price model in Malaysia. Table show the co-integration approach of AIDL using F-test to confirm the existence of co-integration between variables in the model. The Akaki information criteria, known as AIC model, is used and shown that the optional lag set for all analysis is 2 to get better and more accurate uniform result. F statistic should be compared. F statistic should be compared to the critical value identified by Narayan 2004. The result of the configuration showed that F statistic derived from the optimal lag of each type of variable were greater than the critical value of the upper bound. This table shows F statistic for long bean are the table shows a statistic for the eggplant is 4.0311 and for tomato is 4.142. Is greater than the upper bound value at significant level of 5%. Moreover, the statistic for spinach are 3.543, largely significant at 10% upper bound. This is the Granger causality test. As you can see, the restriction on gathering affect spinach, and then for the movement restriction, it affect the eggplant and also spinach. For the international travel control, it just affect the tomatoes. Tomatoes import outside widely compared in our own country. For the restriction on gathering, it affect spinach more because when the restriction on gathering, people cannot go to market, and in a household, only one person can go to the market. Same goes to the movement restriction. For the movement restriction, the price effect because of the logistic in the supply and change demand. That's all for the contribution to new knowledge and applied value from research. The first one is impact of the government response Stringency index on vegetable price. Second one, controlling the economic situation. It is fiscal policy. Third one, indication of macroeconomic variable. It is lockdown measurement. And lastly, proof of supply shock theory and demand shock theory exists in the research. That's all. Thank you.